I know that the title and the video itself is not at all original, nor is it unpopular, but I felt like expressing my thoughts on this topic because it's been on my mind for what feels like forever. And if you somehow missed the title, I'm getting tired of live service games, and there's plenty of reasons that you may be familiar with already, but I don't just want to rant about why I'm exhausted of them. I want to give some suggestions as to how these games can address these issues going forward, and some examples of those solutions. I also want to clarify that if you enjoy live service games, I am not at all picking you out or trying to convince you to stop enjoying these games. Look, I enjoy playing some of these games myself, and I don't want to stop anyone from playing if they genuinely enjoy their time with it, as long as it doesn't negatively affect others at least. I'll mention it later in this video, but live service games have their own unique aspects that make them special in their own way. I just want to explain what makes me exhausted from all these live service games popping up. So let's get into one of the smaller issues. These games are always online and almost always changing. That's obvious and sounds odd, I know, but let me explain. As per the live service moniker, these games will have frequent updates throughout their lifespan, and that's the entire point of a live service game. They change up their content after a few months to keep things fresh, and it keeps the game alive by having players come back to experience all of the new content. This is the standard of live service games and a relatively great feature that they hold, especially if it's multiplayer focused. However, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Since most live service games are multiplayer, they will always require an internet connection, and that makes sense. But some games require an internet connection even if you're playing a single player mode with no online features. And if a major update comes around and you're not exactly enjoying its new content, or worse, hate the game because of the new update, there's not much you can do about it. You can either drop the game and wait for a new season or patch to roll around, hopefully fixing the issues you had before, or you can just suck it up and deal with it. Neither scenario is ideal, obviously. And as a small side note, an always online game is much more difficult to work with for game preservation, compared to normal games that are usually always offline. So if a game shuts down due to a lack of players or success, and the game in question relies on servers to be playable, that game will be completely lost to time. Surprisingly, even some versions of Fortnite are lost because of this, and that game is basically the face of live service games. There is a solution to this problem, but I'll get into that later on. Another staple of live service games are their microtransactions and battle passes. Now, I get why most games have these. Live service games are usually free to play, and they have to make money somehow. But that also means that they will actively try to push you to buy something you might be on the fence for and possibly regret later. The most notorious attractor is through FOMO, the fear of missing out. If you're unfamiliar, most live service games have cosmetics either through a battle pass or an item shop. However, they have limited availability due to shop rotation timers and battle passes that will hold unique items only for the season that they're held in. This means that if you're hesitant on buying an item, there's always going to be that timer above your head, pushing you to get it now or it might be gone forever. And that is inherently kinda scummy. Now, it could be worse. There are some games that always have pop-ups, trying to get you to buy the newest legendary skin or whatever, but thankfully not many games do that. At least not many that I know of. And at the very least, it's better than having randomized loot boxes. But the problem also goes a bit deeper than just FOMO. For the battle passes, there's the problem of balancing experience gain for everyone. So usually, battle passes are completed by playing the game and doing certain actions or completing quests and challenges. However, this can be extremely lopsided if it's implemented poorly. Players could either level up way too fast and complete the entire pass too early, or you can have the level requirements way too high and make the entire thing a grindfest. Both aren't exactly the best for player retention. But there's also the type of players to consider as well. Some might play a live service game 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you'd want to prevent them from just completing the entire pass instantly. But at the same time, there's people with jobs and other responsibilities who only play about once per week, so now you gotta give them some way to catch up. It's a hard system to manage, and sometimes it can be hard to discern any issues until it's too late and the current season ends. However, some games let you bypass the system altogether. If you're behind on levels, either because you don't have enough time to play or the season's extremely grindy, you can just buy levels. Wow, amazing feature, guys. At that point, why don't I just pay you to play the game for me? But in its entirety, I don't think these issues ruin a live service game altogether. Yes, there is room for improvement, but keep in mind, these are entire games that are free to play. No paid DLC or other content required. Maybe a new account needs to be made to play the game or something, but that's it. The only major problem that stems from these issues is that if you're a compulsive buyer or bad at handling money, you're most likely very susceptible to these alluring practices. In that case, yeah, the experience is probably ruined for you, but otherwise, it's not a complete deal breaker. The main issue I have nowadays, and by far the biggest problem on this list, is that almost every single game is trying to get a slice of the live service pie. Within what feels like the past 5 or so years, there have been so many games either going live service or inserting some live service elements into their established games and trying to profit off of it. Look, I get it. When a live service game succeeds, the earnings are huge, like enormous, ginormous, or whatever you say. They will earn more than any normal game would get with high sales. But can we please just chill for a minute? I swear you can't go a few months without some big AAA title releasing as a live service game, only for it to either fall under the radar, launch in lackluster condition, or just fail to innovate in their genre and end up being nothing new. I feel like in the past 3 years, there have been about 20 live service games released, and probably only 3 of them are still online and supported. So many wasted time and resources go into games that might just fail for so many obvious reasons, and it's come to a point where we see the reveal trailer of a game and can immediately tell that it's most likely a failure because it's just more of the same and nothing else. But what makes this even worse is when games have things like battle passes just forced into their game for no real reason. Why in God's name does Street Fighter 6 have a battle pass? I already paid a full $60, and not only are you asking me to spend more money for cosmetics I have to work for, but also on top of the paid DLC fighters. And look, some might note that for some battle passes, you earn back the premium currency as long as you complete the entire premium pass. Then, you can reuse your currency for the next pass, or just keep it for something else. In that sense, sure, you don't lose anything. But not only does that mean you're pressured to complete the entire thing or else you'll lose some money, that still doesn't make up for the fact that you're paywalled from unlocking some basic cosmetics. Which in a paid game, by the way, is something we've had for free in the past decade. How about I just unlock items normally through in-game currency and rewards, like how most games usually do it? It's even more damaging when a previously established franchise or developer that is specifically known for quality single-player experiences ends up making a multiplayer online-only live service game. Crash Team Rumble, Redfall, Babylon's Fall, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Like, what's the game plan here? Of course, no one will play a new game because it's nothing like what they want or expect from the series or developer. I'm certain that if all the games I just listed were regular, polished, single-player releases, something that most people would probably want, they'd be much more successful both in reception and in sales. It doesn't help that, again, all the games I listed were paid titles, so a combination of both of those problems are basically a confirmed recipe for disaster. And look, despite my tone throughout most of this video, I don't entirely despise live service games. They have their own unique strengths and provide experiences that you can't really have in any other type of game. They're amazing for multiplayer games because having new content released over time keeps that game fresh and alive. Yes, they have their problems as I've thoroughly mentioned, but there have been many attempts by other titles to alleviate those issues. For example, preservation is a constant concern with live service games, with all the constant updates and heavy reliance on official servers. But when Knockout City had its server shut down, the devs had a new PC version that allowed private servers to be hosted, keeping the game playable for the foreseeable future as long as the community existed for it. Splatoon 1 had a similar situation. All updates ended long ago, and with the Wii U servers shut down for good, fans put together their own servers to host, keeping the original game playable and alive as long as there are players there for it. And although it's not exactly a live service game, Mega Man X Dive was a gacha game that was previously online only. However, a few years after the game's initial launch, a paid offline version was released, which removed all microtransactions and grindy elements, just in time too, because the original online version would end all services soon after. These offline versions help with preserving what would have been unplayable games when the official servers inevitably shut down. As for paid live service games, there's also some good examples of getting live service elements right. Helldivers 2 is the most recent example, being a paid game with microtransactions, yes, but as far as I know, it offers some solid gameplay and community-driven elements that helps it stand out on its own. That might be changing in the coming months, so sorry if that's already outdated. The Splatoon series also has some solid gameplay behind it, but not only does it launch with decent amounts of content from the get-go, the only microtransactions are usually for any substantial DLC expansions. No premium currency, no premium battle pass. Everything else is unlocked in-game. And probably an unexpected title for some, but Minecraft Dungeons actually went live service partway into its DLC releases. What makes it stand out are the battle passes that are fully accessible forever. So if you missed the first season's pass, you can just go back to it and level it up. Same for the second pass, third pass, and so on. That way, it avoids FOMO and removes any time-sensitive elements, also preserving the rewards for any future players. Ironically, the original Minecraft has its own Forest Marketplace pass in Bedrock Edition, and it doesn't function like this at all. Still a time-sensitive pass, like everything else. Perfect for all 3 Marketplace fans out there. Shockingly, even Fortnite is adding its own positive changes with Battle Pass items in the future. Now, once the season ends and 18 months have passed, all the items within that season's pass can show up in the game's item shop. Sure, it might ruin the exclusivity of Battle Pass items, but at the same time, I know people have been begging to get some old Battle Pass items that will never see the light of day again, so I don't think anyone's going to war over this change. Most, if not all of these kinds of solutions have been met with highly positive feedback, and it's clear as to why that is. Removing any time-sensitive elements when it comes to any game content, whether it be a character skin or an entire game shutting down, is just convenient for most players. Yes, there are people who play these games non-stop and never have to worry about running low on time, but for everyone else who simply doesn't have the time to spare, these changes are extremely useful. It doesn't negatively affect anyone, and only adds more options for players who may need it, which I feel will be appreciated if it's added into more games. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening anytime soon, and it's pretty clear why. The way these items are offered increases sales by a lot. Battle passes, premium currencies, a bunch of cool items, the time restrictions, it just works together to keep all the money flowing in, and clearly money is a priority for most of these companies. For free-to-play games specifically, that's all they can really do, otherwise the game is doomed from the start. It might be scummy in how they'll be implemented, but it's a necessity to keep the game and its services going, which I can't argue against because again, the game is free. Unless you're a paid title, then you've got a lot of convincing to do. Live service can prove to be an amazing genre and form some pretty fun games if done right. Unfortunately, it's seen more as a moneymaker than an actual type of game to innovate and experiment with. There are clear issues that can and have been fixed in the past, but it's not exactly a concern or a priority because that would possibly affect sales and revenue. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and for most companies, they won't ever fix anything at this rate. In some ways, live service games are like a multi-platform diet version of gacha games, just without the randomized pay-to-win aspects. They heavily enforce microtransactions with premium currencies and have a bunch of updates or events to keep the players coming back. Battle passes are simple forms of progression and offer a premium tier for more rewards. And hey, despite all the issues I have with them, it all works together pretty well. I can't really fault any of these games for amassing a large audience since most of these games are pretty fun for what they're worth. Again, not judging if you enjoy these games. I just don't need every game to copy the same monetization model with the same battle passes and premium currencies, especially if it means losing a potentially great single player title over another paid live service game. I think there's enough games to fill that void.